So let's scroll up and let me add another toolbar here. I'm going to call this one J Toolbar 2. Now let's scroll down to where you have your first toolbar. Right underneath it, we're going to set up toolbar 2. Toolbar 2.add new J button. So I'm just adding a few buttons on the fly just so that, and I won't be adding any functionalities to it. The idea is to be able to have two toolbars existing at the same time. New image icon. I have new.png, that's one of the images I got. I have open.png, and I have save.png, so I'll just add those 3 items to this toolbar. Now, let me comment out this line which I have, add toolbar to the north. I'll comment out that line. So make sure you comment out the line that is add toolbar to border layout.north. Got it? Okay. Now, right before we set the properties, we're going to call a method called createLayout. This is a user-defined method. We still need to code it. To which we're going to pass our toolbar 2 and toolbar. I want my toolbar 2 to appear right above the toolbar, so that's why I'm passing it in that order. The method does not exist, that's why it's complaining. If you scroll down and right where the main end, right where the constructor ends, if you can have your create toolbar method right here, private void create layout. Create layout. Does the two methods match? No. Okay. Now, if I do something like this, J toolbar TB2 and J toolbar TB1, oops. That's one way to do it. Right? Okay. Now if I look at the hierarchy of J toolbar, the J toolbar is a child of who? Who's the parent of J toolbar? J component, right? And we have learned in one of the chapters before that a parent can receive an object of child type. Like animal could receive an object of dog, animal could receive an object of cat. So instead of this, I can actually use J component. And there will be no errors. Okay, so we have learned how you can pass an object into the like type, and now we are looking at an object getting passed into its parent type. That also works great. Now I'm going to teach you a third way which you have not seen yet, And this is awesome. The reason it's awesome, because in this approach, you can have 1,000,000 items passed, but on the receiving end, you only catch it in one item. Okay? How do we do that? It's not even an array the way you declared it, because arrays are fixed size. It actually acts as a collection behind the scene, but this is how you do it. In front of the class, which is a receiver, you put three dots like that. It automatically creates an array of objects for you. It creates an array. So arg is actually an array which can receive any kind of J component. It happens to be so you're passing 2 of them. You can't use a regular array. Why? Because when you have an array on the receiving end, you must have an array on the passing end. Only an array can take an array. But here, we are passing 2 individual objects, but on the receiving end, we have an array. See that? When you're passing 2 individual objects. But on the receiving end, you have an array of objects. So that's why they introduced this new operator in Java to receive on the receiving side an array, and on the passing side, you can just have a list of items, individual items. Okay. Now, let's create a container object here. We're going to use the group layout I asked you to read upon. Which allows you, group layout has 2 patterns, sequential and parallel. You can make things exist in parallel, and you can make things exist in sequential. Sequential means they will be overlapping. Here I want both toolbars to exist at the same time, so I want to use parallel. Okay, now moving forward. Pane dot set layout G1. Group 1. So the layout of my pane, my container, who's my container, my form? Its layout is group layout. Okay, now in the group layout, I want these items to be added horizontally and vertically in parallel. So, group 1 dot set horizontal group, group 1 dot create parallel group, because I want them to exist in horizontal in parallel. Horizontally, they must exist in parallel. Vertically, they must exist in sequential. So create parallel group dot add component. Now this is a little bit of a long syntax because you need to add components in parallel. So which toolbar I want to appear first? The one that I'm passing first, which is arg0, because arg is the name of my array on the receiving end. So arg0. So add components takes 4 parameters. The component that you're adding, the min, the preferred, and the max. So the minimum size, the preferred size, the maximum size, those are the last 3 parameters. The preferred size can be the default size, or you can write preferred size. And so it goes for min and max. The component is the component that you want to add. Okay. Now, how am I adding? I'm adding them in parallel. Okay. So one of them is done. Now you say dot add component. The second one. Just copy this whole syntax and paste it. Oh, I have to close my, yeah, I did close my add component. Okay. And now instead of arg0, you do arg1. Make sure you don't forget that period before add components, because they're getting added in stack so that they can exist in parallel. Now vertically I want to add them in sequential group. Set vertical group, group1 dot create sequential group, in which you want to add component arg0, and then you want to add component arg. So now you will see two toolbars stacked up on top of each other. Awesome. Since I was overriding the container, so in order to fix this problem, this is what you should do. Instead of creating a container, create a panel. So call it a pane. So what I'm going to do is, in this panel that I'm creating, everything else will going to be exactly the same. The only difference is, instead of doing it on the frame container, I'm just creating this panel, pane, and I will going to return this pane back to the calling frame. So that's why I changed the return type from void to jpanel and return the pane. First, make these three changes. Declare a panel object, return the panel object, and change the return type from void to jpan. So I will going to create this panel, and I'll use this panel on the north, because what I was doing in my last code, I was overriding the container of the frame. Now you scroll up where you are making a call to create layout. To the left of that, do jpanel pane equals to, so that when the create layout returns a panel, you're capturing that in a local object pane. And then you're adding that pane to the north of your existing frame. So you basically are putting the toolbars in a panel, and you're using that panel up north. Versus changing the layout of the container. So now when you do this, you should be able to get your functionalities back.